in this thing that we call life, it's very common that people are going to misinterpret and misunderstand your intentions and who you are. And sometimes they will even label you and have the perception that you are the bad guy. Oftentimes it's true for villains that they were never intending to be the villain, but they become painted as the villain. Although their intentions might be good, sometimes the way that they carry out their actions are not as good. However, we're here to talk to you today about people who have good intentions and whose actions are aligned with those intentions, but how people's perceptions and understandings of them falls short.
So when you start this journey of entrepreneurship, self-growth, self-improvement, it's going to rub a lot of people the wrong way. Because one, when you're committed to your purpose, especially if it's not a popular one, people are not going to like that. They may not voice it as that, but they're not going to like it because you're not focusing on them or the things that they value or find important. So in their head, they're going to say, I don't like that. So outwardly, they're going to start calling you the bad guy. They're going to start calling you the person who's not fun, the person who's not cool, the person who's not someone that people want to be around, because he or she is always focused on bigger and better things, or things that aren't widely, viewed as fun. But that's something that you're going to have to willingly sign up for, because it's going to happen and it's going to continue to happen the more you progress throughout life, chasing the dreams and chasing the goals that you have for yourself. And most people, and we've experienced this, will refer to you basically as everything but cool when you prioritize work and your goals over them. Very few will understand what you're trying to do, and also what you're trying to accomplish and what you're trying to be as a person. Very few will understand that, because very few take on that journey and are confident enough to take on that journey. Win, lose, or draw. And a lot of people are going to really ostracize you. And I have something here which I've seen, I believe, plenty of times from people who've gained some claim to fame for something, right? I think you'll be ostracized until you're idolized. But that, ostracization will probably begin again soon after, because people change how they feel about you. People like to shit on you 1 second, then claim that they were there for your ascent to fame the next second. And then once you're on the top of the mountain for too long, they want to knock you off in the following second. So all this to say, in my opinion, how the world views you is very fickle. It's as fickle of a thing as the leaf blowing in the fucking wind, right? It's subject to change at a moment's notice, but no matter how the wind blows, you have to remember that the leaf always remembers that it's a leaf. No matter how the wind blows, up, down, side to side, however, right? No matter what people say about you and what they think that you're striving towards, what they think that you're working towards, you have to remember that you are the person that you have been building yourself up to be. And no one can take that away from you, because nobody, very few people, know you better than you. So no matter how someone thinks of you, whether it's cool, not cool, fun, rich, poor, you know the truth. So take that with you into this fight that we call life, that we call self-growth, that we call business, because stones will be repeatedly thrown in your direction. And it's your job to realize that whether you're the good guy or bad guy in people's eyes, what the main objective is.
And I think one of the keys here is to understand that your internal compass is what is your guiding light. It's your goals and the path that you illuminate that's actually what matters. It's not other people's perceptions nor their opinions that is going to determine your trajectory and your direction. And that is entirely within your control, because you can control where you're headed and what you're doing on a day-to-day basis, but you cannot control other people. And that's one of the things that can be a leech of your time, where you're trying to continuously justify what you're doing and trying to get other people to understand and support your endeavors, and all that energy that you spend and all that mental bandwidth that is being wasted could be reallocated into something meaningful and productive. And I think one of the biggest things here is that everyone has their own agenda. There could be a variety of reasons why people paint you as the bad guy. It could be because you remind them of their shortcomings and their insufficiencies and how they're not pursuing their goals and how they're falling short of their full potential. It could also be that you just trying to better yourself and your surroundings plays and makes them feel small because they can't understand things. And we've spoken about this in the past. We fear things that we don't know and that we don't understand. And if they cannot control you, if they cannot predict you, whether they admittedly open up about it or whether it's subconsciously, they're going to begin to slander you because you are an object of fear. And I want to sort of paraphrase something that is a quote from Alex Hormozy, which is basically that in 100 years, you'll no longer be around. And most likely, everyone else whose opinions that you cared about or who you thought were important, they likely won't be around either. And so the odds are that those small little moments that you're really concerned about other people's perceptions and those small little moments where you didn't want to be painted as the quote unquote bad guy, they don't matter. In the grand scheme of things, life is a lot bigger and a lot larger than you. And when you think that you're so important and you paint yourself as so big or so large, it's kind of comical. It's egotistical. It's vain. It's to say that stop wasting your time worrying about what other people think and stop wasting your time trying to justify to other people and paint yourself positively in their image, when in reality, the most important thing is your actions, and that your actions speak louder than your words. And you can talk and talk and talk and talk. But at the end of the day, if your actions are pointing in the positive direction and they're still painting you as the bad guy, then the question now becomes whose compass is properly guided? Is your perception of what's good better than theirs, or is their perception of what is good true? You know, it's up to interpretation and at the eye of the beholder. And
one of the things that, again, you have to be pretty comfortable that I mentioned this earlier with throwing rocks, but really when you decide to step in and carry out the good fight of trying to better yourself, you have to realize that you're stepping into the spotlight. And more often than not, you're stepping into the spotlight of criticism. So you're opening yourself up to slander from everyone, especially with today's social media presence. Of course, you can do things relatively low key, but once you start a business and you start conducting business publicly, this now puts a large target on your back for people to see what you're doing and criticize you for how you conduct yourself, how you conduct your business. And if you're willing to, or if you're wanting to achieve anything worth achieving in life, you're going to have to step out on that limb. There's no way around it. So if you're going to want to put yourself in a position to where people can give you some type of pat on the back and praise, you're also going to have to realize that that praise can easily be shifted to criticism and slandering, because what happens in the long run really isn't up to you. Of course, your success is up to you, but how people view it is not up to you. So if you're going to want to achieve more and do better in life, you have to realize that how people perceive that is out of your control, completely out of your control. And you're going to have to be okay with that. You're not going to be everybody's friend. You might want to be everybody's friend, but somebody's going to see you ascending and going up in life, and they're going to say, that should have been me, or I wish that was me, so fuck that guy, or fuck that person. And that's something that is going to be here for you until the end of time. It's one of the things that comes with success. It's not all good things that come with success. It's a lot of things that come with it that make life more difficult for you. But again, when you sign that contract of life, when you sign your, I don't want to say sign your life away, but when you sign your life to be able to be like, hey, look, I'm willing to sacrifice my current fun for long-term fun, sacrifice the time that I have now to work so that I can have fun and do all the things I want to do later. Once you sign that deal with yourself, you have to read the things that come in that contract. It's like you have to get a lawyer to go over contracts that you do in business, because there's little things here and there that you may miss that may incredibly affect the outcome of what you thought the deal that you were going to get is going to be. And same thing applies with success, the contract of success. You have to look at that contract and really read it and understand that all that comes with it is not going to be something that you're just going to love, right? And also you have to think about, people are going to make decisions based off of who they think that you are. Pay attention to that, take note of that, and understand that this doesn't mean that you are actually who they say you are, right? So we've experienced this a lot, where we know who we are, we know what we're working towards. But someone else may have a perception of who we are and what we're working towards, and they may view it as something lackluster, right? They may view the things that we're doing and the person that, or persons that we are currently, isn't fun in the moment. So we get the title of not fun casted upon us because we're not going on vacation right now. We're not taking you out to fancy dinners all the fucking time because we don't have time. We're not, taking you out on shopping sprees all the time because we have shit to do. So we're deemed as not fun in an instance, right? So they may have that perception, but your internal perception of who you are and what you're working towards may be completely different. What they view you as, in my opinion, doesn't fucking matter. Because is that going to get you to where you want to go? Probably not. And you're going to have to be okay with letting that person think that, letting them misinterpret who you are, and continuing to perpetuate the hard work that you put into what you're doing in order to get to where you want to go. And there's this quote from J. Cole in a song that I always like to refer back to. And he said, I know some hoes from the past like, damn, Cole, wish I knew that you would be rich. Well, you should have asked. And I like that because though they didn't know that he was going to be rich, in his mind, he knew that he was going to be rich. Though they thought at the time that he was a not cool, lame guy, in his mind, he knew that he was going to be one of the best rappers out there. He knew that he was going to put in the work to do all this stuff, right? He knew that. So people are going to have a lot to say about you, especially initially, right? But they don't know all the fucking work that you're doing. They don't know all the hours you're putting in. They don't know all you've gone through and the person that you truly are. They only see the outside or a sliver of what you're doing, what you've been willing to open up to them about. So when the time comes and all the work that you've put into this finally begins to pay off, you're going to be the same guy that was fucking working years ago, months ago, however long ago. And you're going to be like, well, I knew that I would get here because I knew that if I put in the work and I stayed dedicated, that this was going to happen. But everybody else is going to have to shift their opinion of who they thought you were. And as time progresses and the more work that you put in, who people think you are starts to trend in the direction of who you always knew that you actually were. They were just late to the party. You've always known that you were always this. People thought you were this. But as you start to put in the work and you start to put in the hours and you start to succeed more, that idea that people have of you starts to get closer and closer to who you actually are. And that's a very humbling experience for most people, and a very proud experience, I would say, for you, because you get to prove yourself right.
I think we all also have to be careful and understand that this is a two-way boat. It's not that everybody misunderstands you or misinterprets you. It's also that you are fully capable of doing the same to other people, and you are actively doing it, because we're human and we all share very similar features. And it's similar where we look at other people when they're not doing what we do, that we ostracize them. We say, oh, you're a bad guy because you don't have your shit together, or because you're going on vacation, or because you're participating in these hedonistic things. But in reality, their reality is different than our reality. And we have to understand that can coexist. You need to have people who don't succeed in order for people to succeed. There is a first place for a reason. Participation awards have ruined the perception of reality, which is that there are very clear winners and there's very clear losers. And you have to understand that not one of them is bad. If you win, you're not bad. If you lose, you're not bad. Now, objectively, yes, you can categorize people as good and bad depending on moral standards and things of that sort. But what I'm saying is, just because one team wins over the other, sure, within that scope, one might be bad, but that doesn't mean that the team and every person on that team is a horrible person, or that they don't deserve to exist or coexist in the same plane or earth or world or country or whatever it might be. So this understanding of a bad person or a bad guy or a bad individual, it could be a slippery slope. And oftentimes, if you feel like somebody's looking at you like you're a bad guy, it most likely means that you're returning the same energy and reciprocating the same emotion or feeling somewhere along the line to somebody else. So be mindful of the thoughts that are going through your head and how that impacts your actions, because you might realize that you're treating certain groups of people or other people within a certain way. Because it's very easy for us to think that there's only one way to live life, and that's our way because it's the only right way. So understand and sympathize for other people when they look at you as a bad guy, because they don't know any better. And maybe at one point in time you were in that same boat, or you are currently in that same boat, just on a different side of that coin, where you perceive other people as bad because they're not doing what you're doing. And understand, hey, that's perfectly normal, but if you can prevent that from continuing, then that's what you should be doing. End the cycle of negativity. And I'm not saying you have to turn it into a positive. At least neutralize it and go about your business and only worry about your things, because that's what's in your control.
And your initial take on someone, your initial thoughts on someone may be right. You may be very good at realizing someone's character in an instant, very quickly, right? However, in my opinion, actions transcend presuppositions. So the preconceived notions that you have about someone before you even meet them, before you even talk about them, could be completely and utterly wrong until you speak with them, or until you see them in certain situations that are very telling, right? So I might see a person running down the street and they might be wearing something that I may not wear, and I could be like, they're a weirdo, right? However, the more that I get to know that person, the more that I get to see that person interact with people, do certain things, handle business, handle communication, handle, you know, simple moralic fucking things in life, the more I get to fucking understand how this person really is. And my initial thought of, wow, they're the bad guy, or they're the weird guy, or they're the person that I don't like, quickly can change to someone that I do admire. So, like Jose said, you have to be very mindful of how you treat and how you think about other people, because just like how people might be thinking incorrectly about you, you can very much so be thinking incorrectly about someone else. And this is something that I've had to improve on, because I would be pretty judgmental when it comes to certain people, because I just have a natural kind of disposition to not like most people. And I could see them and see how they dress, see how they talk, see how they interact with people. Very short, not a lot of sample size to work with. And I could cast them off as being the bad guy, being a bad person, being someone I don't like. But the more I got to know them, the more I got to hear them speak, the more I got to see them do things, the more I realized that I was incorrect. And this is actually not as harshly, but this actually goes with one of our mentors, Mr. T. I'm not going to say his name, but, you know, initially when I was younger, I saw this guy and was like, who the hell is this guy? I don't know if I like this guy. In a room full of people wearing black suits, he's one of the only ones wearing a white one. I don't like that. It's kind of like braggadocious. He's showing off a lot. It seems like it's a lot of excessive things going on. I don't know if I like that. And the older I got, and when I actually had a real deal conversation with him, most heartfelt, sympathetic, empathetic, caring, hardworking person I've met, well, one of the most that I've met on this entire fucking planet. So I was utterly wrong, because I had that initial thought, initial presupposition of who this person was, instead of actually taking the time and getting to know them. So don't be a hypocrite and ask people to try to understand you and see you as the good guy or whoever you really are, if you're not willing to do the same for other people. Because there's very few things that are worse than someone who's a fucking hypocrite. Someone that will turn their nose up at someone doing something that you do in the dark all the time. So realize that if you want to be a beacon of hope, a beacon of light in this world, that you're no better than anyone else. You're subject to carrying out the same negative actions, humanly actions that other people do on a day-to-day basis. So give a little grace. Not too much, but give a little grace.
The Club Podcast.
Signing out.
Mic check. The AM Club Podcast.